Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks a bunch. Now, quite often on my channel, I see comments about the lack of companies covering obscure wars. Unfortunately, I think that a lot of people aren't really aware of the games out there that do touch upon these wars, and often because maybe the marketing departments of these games don't do the greatest job in promoting them. A lot of you guys have seen me play, for instance, South African campaigns here on the channel, and I got that from the Gravity Tactics Maya's Front series. The same thing is true over here for the Iran-Iraq War. That's right, there's actually a DLC that you can get here in Gravity Tactics Maya's Front that allows you to play the Battle for Khuzestan. And this might not seem like a major fight, but let me tell you guys, if you're looking for modern war action, quick action, especially in the simulated world of Graviteam, I would highly recommend picking this up. Each and every faction, of course, has kind of their own campaign going here. You could, of course, play as the Iranian side. And of course, in the upper right-hand corner, you're going to get some explanation as to exactly what to expect as the Iranian player and, kind of how the battle is going to go. Some really interesting historical facts with some of this information. Of course, some of it is alt history, but I think for the most part here, it's absolutely the truth. You could have also, of course, play as the Iraqis. And of course, the Iraqis get a bevy of incredible tanks. Keep in mind during this conflict that Iran had virtually no allies whatsoever, whereas Iraq was supported by not just the Western world, but by the Soviets as well. Now, we're going to jump into a fight right here on the map. We're actually going to be doing an armored offensive as the Iraqis, so you can see how the initial stages of this combat play out. But keep in mind, this battle is going on right here on the outskirts, the very outskirts of the Hamoudi area. And the deeper in you get to Iranian territory, the stronger those defenses become. Welcome to the front. Today we're going to be facing Iran as Iraq, of course, Saddam's troops. Now, typically we have to cross the Euphrates in these battles, but we have made it across the Euphrates, my friends. So at this point, we are simply playing as the Iraqis on a counter-offensive, hopefully. That's what we're trying to do, completely drive these Iranians out of the area. I am, however, forming a sort of attack line here with Masoud's forces, because I know that the enemy is going to be attacking this way, but we're going to have to do a strong counterattack behind their line, if that makes sense. So pretty much flanking them and cutting them off completely. That's why I'm moving all of this armor over here. I believe most of our tanks, if I'm not mistaken, are T-62s. Nothing special, but, also not bad. Pretty decent tanks. So we're going to go ahead and just set up like this. I'm almost certain that the Iranians will be dug in, but hopefully there'll be no challenge for our Iraqi line. Now, one thing I always do in these modern war battles is I wait a little bit, because first we want to just make sure that everything is going to go as planned, that, for instance, there's not an ambush instantly set up for us. So we're going to kind of hang out here just a bit, and I will make a decision here in terms of movement. But let's just get some shots of these beautiful Iraqi vehicles. Of course, these are Soviet tanks, but the way they are painted in the game to match the actual scenery is just so well done. It really is. All right, guys, well, what we're going to do is we're going to return when contact begins. I don't think it's going to take much longer, and in fact, I'm going to take some of our BRDM recon vehicles and just kind of head out there, take a look to see if we spot anything. Contact has been established. It looks like armored cars, if I'm not mistaken. I'm going to push up right there with Abby, one of our, or Arby, excuse me, one of our units. In fact, with Ashkani, Nagfi, all these guys, I'm pushing right there. Looks like we got a pretty good shot, but I absolutely see more Iranians popping up out of that location, and a lot of them are tanks, so I'd like to knock them out if I can. Let's take a look over here, just see what I can spot at the moment. Of course, Fog of War is on, so they could have a lot more tanks here. Now, during this war, what's actually quite amazing about the about Iran, for those of you that are not aware, is whereas Iraq got support not just from the United States, but from the Soviet Union. Yeah, that's right. Look at that tremendous kill as well. Iranians got support from virtually nobody, so for them to have even made it through this war is pretty amazing. But as you can see, we're getting some devastating hits on their forces with our tanks, just destroying those Iranian units right there. You gotta love it. Let's go over here too. Looks like they're actually abandoning this vehicle, possibly to take out RPGs, etc. But the crazy thing is, that's not even the location of one of their victory locations. So they've got a lot of defending troops there, and I'm not sure for what reason necessarily. There we go. Keep pushing, boys. You can see our tank line now advancing. This is what we want to see, boys and girls. Now, this is one bit of concern. I'm starting to see some explosions over there. And it is on top of some of our units. So it looks like the enemy is using artillery over here on the farm area. I'm not moving, though. We could start pushing forward with these guys, but I am staying put with these guys and only moving forward with this tank group. Really, like I said before, they are our offensive force. Let's let them do their thing. In fact, I'm going to give them an even more blatant assault order. We're just going to have them assault, period. So, full-on offensive here. Also, let me know in the comments down below, when we do play gravitating tactics, do you prefer these more modern wars, or do you prefer us to just stick to classic World War II? Again, for me, these sort of modern wars are always a really interesting part of history, and I love covering them. By the way, it looks like Tamizi may have spotted a target across the ford there. Good kill, Tamizi. We are just obliterating these APCs, and they are pretty inexpensive Iranian APCs and PTRs. And there we go, breaking through without much issue. But this is a good example of how an how an Iraqi offensive with armor would work. And obviously the Iranians really had to improvise, getting a lot of trench works, a lot of anti-tank units, etc., to counteract this massive Iraqi push. Because you can see in terms of armor, we've just steamrolled the Iranian enemy. I want to wait and see if there's any more of them. And look at that. We've got helicopters coming in, guys. Do you see that? Air support even. Yes, this particular DLC does have air support. Look at that. That is awesome. I don't think we're going to get a chance to see it in action, this particular battle, but it's a good example of what to expect in this game. Now, I want to be clear, the Iranians do have their own armored column, and I believe they get assistance from, I want to say Turkey. There is one country that does give them assistance and actually gives them some very modern tanks, if you're playing as the Iranian player. The problem is you don't have nearly as many, and that's an Iranian chopper, as you can see. So coming in to knock out our tanks, man, anything can happen here at the end. Oh my gosh. Direct hit on that tank. I think he's going to be all right. Certainly shook the crew up a bit. But I guess it's a good option for them to bring in those choppers just to kind of weaken our forces as they get their own men out. Now, the deeper you get into Iran, the stronger the defenses are going to be. Like I told you before, a lot of trench works, but also a lot of anti-tank weapons. And I don't just mean like anti-tank guns. I mean ATGMs, things like that. And they'll hit you from a distance. Like they could be all the way over here. Pink, pop that ATGM, and easily destroy the tanks in this line. And of course, if these guys start popping off, everybody's going to follow suit and retreat. Well, I'm certain that's going to be a victory there, folks. And again, I should be clear, you can play as either Iran or Iraq in this game. It's totally up to you, each, of course, coming with their own challenges. Let's return to that operation. And, of course, the operational map, once again, is going to change as you, of course, fight on it, as you bring in additional troops. You should also read the historical background, not just because it's interesting, but also because going through the historical background, you can see when you're going to be receiving reinforcements, where you should be attacking, etc. Just something to consider in this campaign. Now, during each operation, you also get a really detailed list of exactly what happened to your infantry and your vehicles. And I want you guys to let me know down below, because this is a huge deal for me in strategy games. I love to be able to see how many men are killed, how many are wounded, how many are captured. If a strategy game doesn't really have that dynamic, I'll be honest, I kind of lose a little bit of interest. It's just information I'd like to be aware of. You also have victory points, guys, which determines essentially what side comes out on top. And if you look at those little blue circles, in some cases those will be red circles, that's what you're going for. So in this particular campaign, you're actually going for the Dun Hamadi area and also for Ishan al-Kamara over here. If you can take those areas, you've got, of course, very valuable victory points. And then the battle becomes defending against the enemy. One of the few issues I have with the Graviteam series is, of course, unfortunately, there is no multiplayer. Besides that, this really is one of the best you can get. And this isn't the only obscure conflict you can play. You can, of course, play the Angolan Bush War here, either playing as MPLA or South Africa. And one that I don't think ever covered on the channel is the Soviet-China border clashes. Now, don't expect huge battles from the Soviet-China border clashes, but nonetheless, the fact that they even exist, it really is pretty amazing. Well, if this video helped you make a decision, make sure to please like and consider becoming a member on this channel for just $3 a month. I never want to sway you guys in the wrong direction with games, and I try to offer you the best strategy and war games out there today. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you on the next one.